Hi everyone, Quiveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. In today's video, we are taking a look ahead at the month of January. Starting nice and early in the month, here we are on just the 3rd of January, and we can see the moon right next to Jupiter just after sunset. Here we are at just 5:30, and the moon and Jupiter are already right next to each other, right in Gemini. If we take a closer look, this is our full moon. We're seeing it here at 99.7%. So let's see if that goes up as we go later in the night. It doesn't, it goes down. So it looks like 99.7, maybe 99.8%, just as it rises, is the fullest that we're going to see the moon. But we can see the moon drawing level here with Pollux and Jupiter. So this is a great example of the moon's motion over the course of just one night. If you take a look at the moon just after sunset, we'll see that it kind of forms a triangle with Jupiter and Pollux just over here, this triangle in the sky. And as we move forward, we'll see the moon drawing level and passing out the other side, forming a triangle on the other side by the time we come up to sunrise. So this is a great example of just how much the moon moves even in one night. If we take a closer look, it's a full moon. It's giving us, almost a perfect full moon. We can see a little bit of shadow there around the side for this, 0.3-ish% of a difference. But we can also see the moon is nice and close to us, 360,000 kilometers away out of a potential 350,000 minimum distance. So the moon is still a supermoon, very much like the supermoon that we saw the previous month in December. But I do believe if we come all the way back here, and we'll have to follow the moon all the way under the ground and back around, here we are at 353,000 kilometers away. So the supermoon that we're getting in January, early in January, is a little bit less super than the full moon that we already had just gone in December. But it is still a supermoon. It is still going to be that little bit closer, and very close to Jupiter here in the sky as well. Speaking of Jupiter, we're going to move forward to the 10th. Here we are, the 10th of January. We can see Jupiter illuminated at 100%, which is an indication that Jupiter is at its opposition, directly behind the Earth relative to the Sun. And if we get Jupiter as close as possible to directly above the south here, we're a little bit off. We'll come back a little bit. It should be just a bit after midnight. Here we are at 20-1, which seems late. Here we are at, we'll say 12, just after midnight, and Jupiter is right above the south, the highest point that it's going to reach in the sky. So we can take a closer look here. Getting the opposition of Jupiter close to winter is good, because the highest position that it's going to reach in the sky is actually higher than the highest position it would reach in the sky if this was a summer's night and it was at opposition, thanks to our tilt. The same way the sun is lower during the day in wintertime, objects at night are higher in the night sky at wintertime. So we can see here a fantastic night to look at Jupiter. We can see all 4 of the Galilean moons arranged around the size of the largest planet by quite a good distance. This is going to be one of the best nights to take a closer look at Jupiter, not just because it's at opposition, but because of the arrangement of its moons. If we come back a little bit earlier in the night, and because Jupiter is at opposition, it's going to be up all night long from sunset to sunrise. So here we're looking at it at 9:15. It's still nice and high in the sky, and the Great Red Spot is just coming into view. In fact, we'll go back a little bit more. We'll get even closer to sunset. Here we are at just almost 8 o'clock, and the Great Red Spot isn't yet visible. You might catch just a little bit of it there at the side. Moving through the night, again on the 10th of January, when Jupiter is at its opposition, we can see the Great Red Spot coming around into view. It's fully pointing at us by just about 10 o'clock, so just a couple of hours. And as we move through the night, coming up to midnight, when Jupiter will be at its highest in the sky, the Great Red Spot's going to slide out of view. But just before it does, just before we reach midnight, there's the Great Red Spot just sliding out of view, and slid completely out of view by the time we're through to just after midnight. So a great example of how quickly Jupiter turns around. It is a very, very fast rotating planet. Not only does Jupiter rotate very quickly, its moons move very quickly. So we're going to pull back out here. You would, of course, need quite a good telescope to be able to see Jupiter's Great Red Spot. But we're here starting at just about 7 o'clock, just coming up to 7 o'clock in the evening. We can see only 3 of Jupiter's moons, and there comes the fourth, and we can see them moving around each other over the course of the night. So another great example of the Jovian system moving around very, very quickly, whether it's the rotation of the planet or the positions of those Galilean moons around it. So the opposition of Jupiter is one of the big things that's coming up. And if we zoom out just a little bit here and go through a few days, we can see Jupiter moving ahead and coming back. Just there, once we're a little later into the year, is some of Jupiter's retrograde motion. We can see a little bit of the retrograde motion, or this is prograde motion, coming through December to January and then turning around. Jupiter does a sort of a double loop as we essentially catch up to it, have it at its opposition, and then move past the opposition as we get further away from Jupiter, because we're orbiting the sun on a shorter orbit, so a little bit quicker. Continuing to push a little bit later into the month, we're going to come around to morning time, just so that I can keep an eye on the moon, because we are, of course, going to get a new moon in January as well. So let's move forward until the moon's illuminated percentage is at the lowest that we're going to see it, which is just there, 0.4% illuminated. So definitely a new moon. So this is going to be the darkest night of January. It's going to be the night where the moon isn't interfering at all. And now that we're through almost a month from the shortest day of the year, we can see that we're getting our sunset closer to 5 o'clock. The sky is still bright as we get to 5 with our first bright objects, and we've got, yep, just our first bright objects coming through there. We'll turn back on our labels for objects like Saturn. Getting dark just as we come up to almost 6 o'clock, and then our dark night. It will be just a little bit shorter than the dark nights that we were getting in December, because we are past the solstice, but it's not going to really be that noticeable until we get through to February, when the difference will be a little bit easier to notice, because we're gaining just a few minutes a day. It takes a while to add up to be a noticeable difference in the amount of sunlight that we're getting. So there aren't too many meteor showers that are particularly good in January. We can see that the meteor shower we're seeing here peaked back in December. We don't have that many particularly good meteor showers in January. We can see the anti-Helion point there just moving around Jupiter, which is another good example that it's at opposition. The anti-Helion point is directly behind us relative to the sun, more or less, and Jupiter is directly behind us relative to the sun when it's at opposition. So we can see that pretty much lining up there. We can see that the anti-Helion point and Jupiter are a little apart, but not by too much. Turning around here, we've got the Gamma Ursae Minorids, so different to the Ursids, which didn't label themselves as Ursa Minorids. These are the Gamma Ursae Minorids, a very minor meteor shower. We can see it there peaking on the 18th. And the Quadrantids, a better meteor shower, but very, very variable. And we're going to have to go back to the start of the month for this one, which is the night of the full moon, which is going to interfere with our view. So these say that they can get up to 200, and we can see them coming up to their peak there. Here we go. Yeah, this is the just the night of the 3rd. They're coming up to their very, very highest, and we can see them pretty low in the sky. So it looks like they're really peaking just around here. Are we getting up to 200? There we go. So really peaking at just about 9:30 on the 3rd of January. There's the full moon interfering with them. Their radiant has just come above the horizon, which means that we're going to see even less. If we very quickly pop out to the countryside to give ourselves the best view possible, there we go, maybe 11 to 38 being seen here in Ireland, thanks to how low they are in the sky, and probably even less thanks to the light of the moon. As we move through the night, the amount of meteors, the potential amount of meteors, starts to drop down, whereas the amount of meteors that we can see actually climbs because the radiant is getting higher into the sky. So it looks like for us here in Ireland, our potential view of the meteor shower is going to peak closer to 3 o'clock in the morning on the 4th, when the maximum or the actual zenith hourly rate is only 19 to 65, but we're getting up to 44. And The Quadrantids, with these variable meteor showers, these peaks only happen in certain years. Whether or not we're going to get, closer to 200 or closer to 20, it does vary a lot from year to year. They're not as reliable as, for example, the Geminids. But that is the Quadrantids, the main meteor shower that's coming up, Jupiter coming to opposition, and that wonderful full moon. A lot of these things happening quite early in the month. So we have those to look forward to in January. I very much hope you get to see them. And I also hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do like it. If you like this kind of content, then make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. And you can read this information on my website, queebeanscontent.ie. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you back here next time.